"Give me your hand," Contreras called out. Ryman was near enough to hear it through their air bubbles, and did as she said. "We've got to stop meeting like this," he said as she pulled him close. "Don't go limp. Everyone else is managing very well, so you have to as well, okay? And stay awake. It's so quiet out here. Hear that? Nothing but us. Ludd knows a sleeping pod in deep space is about as far from it all as you can get, eh?" "Yes, darling," Contreras nodded as she pinpointed the rest of the crew. Now that Ryman was secure, in the physical sense only, she retrieved Nafi from between her knees and calculated intercept vectors for all the Adrift crew. More were becoming visible each moment as the lower hull of the Gargantua span away with violent speed, against a backdrop of a cut-in space-time bleeding purple light, one of many new hyperholes leading to the furious storm buffeting the sector in the realm above. "What do you think that was? Torpedo?" Ra's voice said. "Under the demidar. Slow moving. Sometimes that's what happens, and there's nothing you could do. Risk of space fighting," Titanian's voice explained. "What about the boys? Can anyone see them?" Allison asked. "I'm checking," Ra said. "Just, if I don't come back with anything, don't be mad at me." "I'm never going to be mad at you again, Ra." "Ah, what a claim. I'm happy enough with that. Reminds me, we should tell Dad what happened. It wasn't our fault, was it? So should be alright to tell him." It turned out that Admiral Olympus had already noticed the Gargantua exploding, being that such things were within an admiral's purview to notice. Everyone's spacepack communicators were heavily jammed, but Olympus's huge silver command cruiser was visible with the naked eye. Its dorsal lights were flashing out a repeating message that Contreras' keen digital eyes decoded quickly. "We'll pick you up as soon as the coast is clear," she read. "Your friends from the outer sector are going at them like eels on a fisherman's foot." Author's note, a Volturnian expression. "Hang on to whatever you can." "We've got each other, and that will have to do," Enrico said from close by, now linking arms with Contreras and Ryman as the first to intercept their course. For Ryman, this all looked and sounded like some kind of dream come true, but he had been awake for enough consecutive hours to lose any appreciation of the aesthetics. "Just tell me it's gonna work out, someone," he soon mumbled with his eyes closed. "Hi Noah, it's fine, all of it. Look at these outer sector ships," he heard Allison reply in person as she tumbled into the group hug. With effort rendered great by the backlog of fatigue and unattended trauma in waiting, Ryman scanned what he could of the battle. The outer sector fleet was in amongst the remnant behemoths, spitting balls of white light which seemed to splash against remnant hulls and course over them like water running over glass. "Wave packets of energy frozen at the moment of collapse," he observed. "Is that? Must be." "Sounds scary," Nafi said. "Not good for computers at all," Enrico said. "That's quite something they've got there. And after I treated them all so poorly in my experiments, I suppose it wasn't all so unwilling. Then after all that they're here with something delightfully unpredictable. So unpredictable that the foremost factor can only be luck. It all comes down to the timing. A day later we would be dead. A day earlier we would be spared this suspense or lack thereof. After all the billions of years, it's one day that makes it all go one way or the other. Could this be of advantage to the universe, to harbour beings that alter its fate so quickly? Like a biological being who can alter their old genetic code, is it not? Yes, the advantages of universes evolving to facilitate such nonsense as we are witnessing must cause these universes to reproduce more successfully. Hence, it is quite likely that we are inside a dominant universal lineage, an alpha universe, if you will. But how divergent from the rest of the population is that at the... I'll cut the speech here because it went on for some time. During this time, the bridge crew matched trajectories and formed the now familiar space ball, beginning to turn away from the battle by the limited power of their spacepacks. Allison was complaining that the beta neutrinos were giving her a headache. Mars was marvelling at his first time in space proper, if absolute terror can be branded as an aspect of Marvel. Titanian was scratching his stubble and carrying on his risk assessment work with his huddle of spies turned secretaries. And Contreras appeared to be in deep thought. She was actually accessing the Holy See's connection to the Galatian Academy's hyperspace monitoring stations, whose highly encrypted protocols offered the only connection not jammed with remnant noise. Indeed, this trump card tier quasi-legal Academy data was secured such that no government could access it, so it was many cuts above the military-grade encryptions the remnants were happily interfering with. "It's still there. They all are," Contreras reported. There is real space out there, or altered space. Everything we left in hyperspace hasn't disappeared yet.
If you remember you left anything there, that's proof enough of that. Hee hee.
Nafi added. It's not going to last, though. That end-space manipulation, all that stuff about reality bowels. It's made a pocket of real space like non-real space, which is able to express its internal mass. Real space like non-real space, that's Sebastian talk, Ryman noted. What else did he tell you, huh? He says it's all going to fall into Zeta Nova Sidonia. Makes sense, Ryman nodded. Note that Ryman wasn't saying this out of pure delirium, though you'd be forgiving for assuming so. Stars generally had a similar effect on hyperspace to hyperholes, that being they sucked anything nearby in hyperspace through into real space. This manifested as a slight flow of hyperspace onto star systems, even before we get into the giant vortex that the aforementioned manipulations had brought about. In short, the remnant Tesseract fleet, the human remains, and the mighty Star Witch were about to be sucked into real space. Only the real space in question was the center of a star. We should be able to see it happen, Contreras said, forcibly rotating the whole web of crew they'd formed to be facing Zeta Nova Sidonia's bluish brilliance. She paid no heed to the complaints of how blinding this was, because A, her eyes were made of sterner stuff, literally, and B, the death of the Star Witch was personal enough to give her true unfiltered pause, never mind the endless scenes of death she was living through. As they waited for this silent punctuation in Contreras' career, there was an unacceptable degree of squirming going on. Even the naked analog eye could tell that the source of this seismic activity in this flesh and steel planetoid of heroes was a certain Mars Nessus. "Lord save us! Don't you all look at me like that," Mars said, alternating between wide-eyed stares at the death-speckled void and holding his hands over his face. "This is nonsense. Everything in this bloody reality is when you're inside the ship. None of it seems real. It's all things on a screen happening far away when you can see it. It's all way too real." "So, guess that's the reason we ain't got no windows on the bridge then," Ryman mused. "I understand you entirely, Mr. Nessus." "Of course you would understand. What's your secret for staying so partially lucid?" "I would say I just don't let it get to me, but it's more like it got to me and then saw there was nothing worth getting. Just enjoy the peace. Even if the worst comes to worst out here, there wasn't much chance of living much longer than today anyway. And Ludd already knows the full specs of everyone else who went already. 2 seconds of thinking about that's enough to put our luxury in some sort of warping perspective. Yes, you'd make a fine ship counselor, Pope Ryman." "Be quiet, Mr. Nessus. About the oxygen supply, though?" "I'll tell you when it's about to run out," Contreras said. "Thanks. I'll just get comfortable here." "Don't make us spin. We need to conserve energy to change course later."
"Due to the number of hyperholes now present in this system, we will not be able to plot a course,"
Nafi noted.
"It is also possible that a new hyperhole will form at our current location at any moment. There are beta neutrinos everywhere."
"I think they're trying to bring material into hyperspace so that they can consume it via that end-space transverse jump method," Allison said. That's the most chief science officer thing you've ever said," Ryman said with real pride. "Because it's something I actually care about." "Roger that. Keep caring, and I'll keep believing. Peace and hope, peace and hope." "I believe it's only affecting areas of real space with corresponding hyperspatial coordinates that were affected by the remnant end-space energy weapons. You know, the reality bowels. That's why things aren't being deleted from the timeline out there, right? That's polarity shifting, like in the theory of end-space tunneling, the real matter getting antimatter properties so that it can safely enter the anti-universe. That's really, really good. I can use that. Let me try and write this down." "You're like Sebi, but taller." "I thought I got away from all that," Ryman rambled on. Allison started trying to send some basic text messages to the Galatians via the hyperspace relay network, and this was all very fascinating to a certain kind of person, e.g. one that likes watching someone confidently fail at a task that's within their job description. But we must address the proverbial sound of a proverbial elephant getting closer and closer to the proverbial room.
"Beep, beep, beep. Can you feel it?"
Nafi said.
"Something is fine scanning us with a demidar. It tickles, doesn't it?"
"It just passed us. Going much too fast," Titanian said. "What was it?" Contreras asked. "Apex Courier class. Thin, big flux trail. If it's coming back, it'll have to... Oh, there we go." Titanian pointed at a purple haze that fizzed in and out of view, a mere speck in the distance. "Flux vent like that means they had to reverse course. combined with the little one getting tickled, I'd say we need to hope we look like a bunch of space junk. I've taken it to heart already, Mars said, with a unique mix of panic, laughter, and intoxication. Sorry, Zuzu. I know you wanted to see the Star Witch off, Ryman said softly. Yes, no fault of yours. Nothing of all this is, Captain. That's simply the most incredibly kind thing to say about me. We might even still win. Humans, that is. Our defeat is not certain. That is what we have achieved, Enrico said. And there's two of you. So easy to forget I'm at the doors of paradise already. The apex carrier Titanian had clocked now swept up between the gang and the star, almost invisible to the naked eye in all the glare, yet obviously emitting more purplish coolant from its capacitors as it slowed to match the orbit of the human ball. Do you think it's friendly? Allison asked. Hasn't killed us yet, so that's pretty good, Ra noted.
I am here to kill you,
a voice clearly stated via everyone's space packs. Enrico recognized the voice ID as being the remnant Toaster-in-Chief from back on the Tesseract. I never thought, Enrico began before Ryman interrupted with, Get on with it then, you coward. We're suffering out here for your petty amusement.
Excellent. Suffering functionality is an immense design flaw in human biology, because while it causes an aversion to the contextual stimuli, it also weakens the ability to alter that context. Funny, funny, funny. We must all admit, it's pretty funny, hee hee.
Nafi chimed in. Nafi, do you think you can stall a few more seconds? Contreras asked. The Star Witch, she's about to go. I just wanted to see.
Ah, the commanders will understand that,
Nafi said.
Excuse me, sir, please don't kill us, because these humans wish to receive penance for their crimes by watching their favorite ships be destroyed in battle. If they were killed, the total amount of human sadness generated would decline. You are a true soldier of Omega. I will kill you last. Copy of new AI final.
I'll cut the line here, but know the voice went on to say Nafi's full name, which certainly sufficed for all the stalling one could hope for. Yes, out in hyperspace, the tussling ball of fuel-less remnant tesseracts, human debris, and the surviving pieces of the Star Witch came to a point exactly about the center of Zeta Nova Sidonia on the hyperspatial plane. There, the gravity of the stellar core reached out across the dimensions and pulled on the fabric of higher space, with a package of abilities once erroneously explained as being the result of dark matter and all sorts of other nonsense. The result was that for precisely one instant, the remains of those great fleets existed in the middle of Zeta Nova Sidonia's real space body. The next instant was an entirely different affair. The star flashed with a pulse of bright black. If it's hard to imagine bright black, count yourself lucky for not having to see what N-space resonant energy mixing with stellar plasma does to a perfectly respectable electromagnetic field. Enjoy living in simpler times. As a purple corona emerged, burning in a halo brighter than the star itself for a time, the effect of whatever had just happened became apparent.
Unhandled exception detected. Shutting down,
Nafi said in a baritone voice. Zuzu? Allison asked, noticing that Contreras was silently crying and clutching her head. They ate something, was all she could offer in answer. Guys, look, Ra said. As Ryman swapped to be Contreras' big spoon, everyone took one look at the remnant ship. Perhaps it was looking back at them. Notably, it wasn't killing them. Hey, the jamming stopped, Ra noted. And, did it kill Enrico? It's not death. It's an error. Contreras winced. See if you can reboot her, him, Ryman said. Calling anyone in the IUC, can you hear us?
Quiet and unclear. We've located you idiots. Stay still,
came Dord's voice. Never thought I'd be so happy to hear from you, Hegemon.
Stay still and stay quiet. We've got to take care of a few things first.
You won't have trouble there, Hegemon, Titanian said. Those silly billies are throwing a hissy fit over this EM field quake.
What?
It was an EM field quake, wasn't it?
I'll take your word for it, Chief Titanian.
Works for us all the time. Hit them now, Ryman said, once again enlivened by a new twist. Get the old chap clued in, will you? It looks like they understand the assignment perfectly well, Mars noted, also revived by the sight of many sparkling human ships strafing the floundering remnants with bolts of white energy. What about this one? Allison said, referring to the remnant whose gun barrels were pointing right at them, like a wolf tied to a post by a line of thread. Is it gonna reboot, Nafi?
Booting in progress. To enter safe mode, please recite the first Googleplex digits of pi in ascending order,
Nafi's system voice announced. What was all that? Enrico said with a shake of his head, i.e. Contreras' head, if I need to keep reminding you. EM field quake, Titanian said. There's a first time for everything in this universe. Nafi, she's taking her time. More concerned about the big guy there, actually. Think he boots faster or slower than you? Ra asked. I like to think I am a complex intellectual who is not easily booted. I would wager we have somewhere between 3 minutes and no minutes. I'll try and get someone over here, Ludd be cursed, Ryman said, after getting a nod from Contreras that she was okay. Before he could do anything else, something whooshed past them, between their clump and the rebooting remnant. Whooshed silently, of course. Keen observers with electronic eyes clocked it as a sports shuttle with no pilot. Think of a big torpedo with seatbelts and gold trim.
Hey, was that too close to you?
A voice asked. Health and safety might want a word with you. Who is this? Ryman shot back.
Hang on. Basically, we're getting the Demidar picture right. If that didn't hit you, then neither will this, so keep still.
Still relative to what? Boom. A silent boom. What was it this time? The remnant ship was gone, with no wreckage to be seen. That was precisely the genius of the move pulled by the blood-red square of pirate/legitimate logistics company freighter that had rammed the remnant ship into a distant orbit, then gone off with it, having hardly lost any speed in the process.
You're welcome. I'll come back around for you guys,
the voice said. Shooting the enemy is far more efficient, Contreras groaned. Messy. Wreckage. We'd be full of shrapnel, Miss Zuzu, Titanian noted.
Clever, ain't I? I went to university, don't you know?
The voice said. Ryman finally recognized it. Jorian Cantor, is that you?
Yes, Professor.
You were supposed to retreat with the rear line, Enrico pointed out.
Didn't, though. You know, I have to do what I have to do. Professor Ryman taught me that.
Did I? Ryman scoffed.
You lead by example, sir.
Well, I'm sure doing what I have to out here today. And even though what you did might have killed us all, it seems to have actually saved us. And of all people in history, I cannot fault you for that. Well done, I guess.
Yep, so about my grades.
Are you seriously asking about that right now?
Are you seriously going to turn me down right now?
By Ludd et al, touché. Yes, pick us up, and I'll make you the bloody provost for tomorrow morning.
Let's get that in writing, shall we?
Oh my, Captain. You shouldn't educate pirates after all, Mars noted. And they all laughed. Well, not really, but there was a sense of relief that finally wasn't misplaced in retrospect. The remnants really were being taken out of commission, forced into a permanent shutdown by the human outlanders, or simply destroyed by the nucleus of the battle fleet that still had anything to shoot or anyone to arrange the shooting. Jorian's freighter came by at a slower clip, with a hefty and soon-to-be historic dent in her once flat aft. As the crew were being towed into the cargo bay, reports came in that the fighting was over. The civilian craft were recalled to scour the battle space for other survivors, and to begin collecting wreckage together for recycling. The Outlanders had their fun attaching tow lines to the remnants they had disabled, and took them as prizes. However, they were soon to learn that actually leaving the system was impossible. The only place for anyone to go was the Holy See. The white beaches and lapping waves were unaffected by the tribulations above, or the impending collapse of reality ahead. The water lapped away at the piles of displaced, shipless, homeless humans, now forming a biological landfill of life along the shores. Our heroes were treated a little better, being taken to one of the office domes to be checked by doctors and treated for radiation sickness. Being in space is a real good way to break your cells via radiation even without EM field quakes. Of course, not all the heroes got this far through the action. I prayed for them, Allison said from her hospital bed. The whole crew were reclined in a bright room, tightly furnished with many such beds. Even when I was out there, I was praying for them. I think if anyone should be asking Ludd to save them, it's them, Ryman said. Not to Ludd, to the Great Ones. So that means, since it was a hyperhole that got them, we're not sure of that. What else would it be? They couldn't find any of the Gargantua, and those hyperholes were here, there and everywhere, even little ones. It's entirely possible the rest of the crew were taken away. You are talking about them being taken into hyperspace and either disappearing or being eaten by creatures from another universe, Mars said. I fail to see what exactly is desirable about that fantasy. Being eaten by the Great Ones isn't the end, it's not dying, Allison said. That's the point. It's another universe. It's another place we can go, because the way space was primed by the end-space weapons, the reality bowels, it was a unique gateway, like that time the Luddic Crusaders went missing. I think the Remnants already knew it was possible, and we're finally catching up. And your maths proves that, does it? Ryman asked. Yes, it does. Did you let Sebi go through it? Yes, I did. And? And he doesn't understand it. Why would he? It's cutting edge. Right, okay, send it to me. We're here for a while. I want to see all your work. It's not quite finished. Just send it. Okay, please be nice. Academia isn't nice, it's correct. Justice and all that. Please stay still, the doctor attending to Ryman said. And by the way, what are the great ones everyone's talking about all the time? You seem to understand the whole thing, they asked. There was no time to answer that, and we've no time to cover the attempt that was made at doing so anyway. Officially speaking, Giga Bishop Thor and Cardinal Commandant Wenz were KIA, along with tens of thousands of others. And while you might think that's nothing in a far-flung future, I should remind you that the Persean sector had been in decline for a long time, and there were only around 7 million people alive in total across the 30 or so inhabited planets, and a full million of those were huddled on either the Holy See or Planet Remainder, one system over. In other words, anyone likely to be of any use at a space battle was either dead or had gotten enough of space battles for the rest of time. About 3 weeks, that would be, by the Galatians' current estimates. Still, the battles were won, in one sense or another, at least insofar as that the chance for humanity to act before the end still remained. And the humans still had their hypershunt, hypergates, and doctorates in hypertopography, a trifecta that promised the world, nay, much more. There was only one thing for it then. It was time to save the universe. Or should I say, universes.